Today we're going to be looking at firewalls in Windows and Linux. So, firewalls in Windows and Linux. And remember, when we're talking about ports earlier on, we talked about 65,000, over 65,500 ports in a computer, and monitoring and making sure all these ports are properly monitored will require some level of tools, some tooling, and some level of automation, so as to control the safety of what goes on, of the traffic and communication that goes on through this port. So we are looking at firewalls in Windows and Linux. And today we're talking about firewall. Firewall is a network device that monitors incoming and outgoing network traffic, decides whether to allow its traffic or communication to go on. It blocks this specific traffic based on certain rules that have been defined. It predetermines security rules. Firewalls also, they establish barrier between secured and controlled internal networks. Firewalls kind of it distinguishes between trusted and untrusted networks from outside, such as the internet. When your computer is connected to the internet, a lot of communication is going on, and once you launch your browser, your computer is trying to communicate, and a lot of communication is also trying to come in from outside, through the internet into your system. So this communications, this traffic in and out of your computer or your device needs to be controlled, and this is what the firewall does. So it's a device that monitors the incoming and outgoing of network traffic. Today, like I said, it's not a project per se, but we are looking at and just giving an understanding of firewall, because the next project we are going to be talking about is going to be based on firewalls, which is going to be intrusion detection and intrusion prevention system. That's the next project we're going to be looking at. So we need to understand what firewalls is all about. So there are different types of firewalls. We can have rule-based firewalls, we have policy-based firewalls, we have next-gen firewalls, next generation firewalls. And these firewalls, they function, they are categorized on different, based on how they are being implemented. So the firewalls can either be hardware, or it can be a software, or it can be both. We can have hybrid, both. Yeah, when I mean hardware, that means you could have a device in your network that is functioning as a firewall, and it could just purely be software that is installed on your network or your network devices. So it could be, and it could be both. It could be in hardware and then a software, firewall. So firewalls can come in this in these two forms. So, and then talking about the types of firewalls we can have rule-based firewalls. These rule-based firewalls can also be further categorized as either they're active, inactive, or default. So rule-based firewalls are uses rules to control the communication between the hosts inside and outside the firewall. That is, there are certain set of rules that are being predetermined. These rules are like single line of text information. They contain the network addresses and virtual ports, permitted or denied. So these rules are set in place. They are stored, in like text files. And then once you start up your firewall application, the firewall make reference to these rules. These rule-based systems are also like, they are static. Most of the time, they cannot do anything. They are not being configured initially to do. Like if a situation comes up that is different from what you have in the rules, rule-based firewalls will not be able to handle it. So a line in the configuration file must actually specify what the firewall will do with each packet that is passing through the device. So you can understand that. So when you have a rule base, that means you have set certain rules that this firewall must behave in certain things when certain packet or certain traffic are being encountered. So it makes the system kind of straightforward, to configure. It's easy to configure, but it's less flexible and less adaptive. That if certain things change, that the rules are not captured, that the rules does not specify, the firewall will not be able to handle it. Then we have active rules. We have an active firewall, we can have inactive. So when you have an active, when a rule is enabled in your system, that means it's active. It's inactive when it's not enabled. So you can set rules in your firewalls that are not enabled. So if the rules are not enabled, then these firewalls are inactive. These rule-based firewalls are inactive. And we have some rules that are default. So once you set up your firewall, you install your firewall application, certain rules come by default. They are just in the firewalls. They are configured. They are pre-configured by the creator of firewall. They are basic rules. They are default rules. So that's for rule-based firewalls. Next type of firewall I mentioned is policy-based firewalls. So these are kind of more flexible than the rule based. They are determined by the system administrator. So define certain conditions. The administrator will define these conditions under which the communications are permitted or allowed within the network. And this administrator also specify the functions and the services to be performed by that can be provided by these communications. So when a policy is being made, so policies often are based on organization. They can be different from one organization to the other. So depending on what functions or what the organization is doing, or what your device is doing, so this policy can these policies, policy based firewalls can dynamically set up a permitted communication to certain location. For instance, you maybe your organization or your device is always connecting to a particular IP address. You can set a policy that every communication coming from such IP address should be allowed, and you can also use the same policy to block. So you can set a policy that in your organization you don't look at maybe Facebook, for instance, or you don't look at certain websites. So you can set it as a policy. So and then the firewalls will implement the policies. So and one uniqueness about this is that any system that supports the IP security authentication headers or encapsulation security payload is considered as a policy based system. So you can allow based on protocols. You can allow based on you can allow a particular IP address to allow traffic of any type to come in. So when you have all this IP security and authentication, and encapsulation security, checking payloads, those are policy based firewalls. Then the other type of firewall I will mention is next generation firewall. So these are NGFW in short form. Next generation firewalls combine the capabilities of traditional firewalls and the modern kind of hybrid. Okay, when I mean traditional firewalls, so traditional firewalls function capabilities of traditional firewalls include things like packet filtering, network address translation, port address translation, blocking of URLs, and virtual private network. So the additional thing that comes with network next generation firewalls are checking quality of service, functionality and features that are not found in traditional ones. So when you combine these traditional, the traditional functions of a firewall and the non-traditional, like checking the quality of service, inspecting, inspecting packets, deep inspection in perfect packets, or checking in providing intrusion prevention services or functionalities, things like checking SSL, secure socket layer, and SSH inspection, deep packet inspection, checking reputation based malware, that is detecting malware based on reputations, signatures and things like that, checking, conducting application awareness, being aware of certain applications running. So these are functionalities that doesn't come with traditional firewall. So next generation firewall provides all these extra features, checking, making deeper interrogation into every packet that passes through or that is passing through the network. So and these next generation firewalls can be very good for application specific attacks. These are attacks that happens in the layer 4 to layer 7, the application layers attacks. So if you are not familiar with the application layer, you need to go back to our network fundamentals where we talk about OSI layers. So those are next generation firewalls. So what are the benefits of making use of next generation firewalls? Next generation firewalls provides uh blocking of malware. It makes sure malwares are checked and blocked before they even enter into your network. And they are also more equipped to handle these APT, advanced persistent threats. These are threats that are that are complete complex threats. Threats that when you check about APT threat, advanced persistent threats, these are threats that are not the normal everyday attacks you have. So these next generation firewalls are equipped to inspect traffic. They are equipped to to be sensitive to pick attacks or pick threats that are not common, that are not the usual threats. So these are the benefit, one of the benefits of next generation firewalls. And next generation firewalls also offer low cost options. That is, you can configure it to suit your organization. You can have things like application awareness. You can conduct configure inspection services, protection services, some awareness tools into next generation firewalls. So next thing I was talking about, I want to quickly explain also about working with firewalls. So when you're working with firewalls, you have certain things that you need to consider, or you need to have in mind. Look at things like IP tables. Firewalls work with IP tables. So every data is sent in form of packets over the internet. And then in Linux, the Linux kernel provides an interface which filters both the incoming and outgoing traffic packets using tables of perfect filter. So these tables are like command line application, and a Linux firewall used to set up and maintain, is set up to maintain this IP, these tables. So these tables are like, yeah, they are defined. You can define multiple tables. Each table can contain a set of rules, like a set of rules, and each rule will define what to do with each packet that comes into the system. So these IP tables are basically tables containing IP address and the rules, or certain rules given to it. When a packet is coming in and the market is given a target, so this target can be tables, with unique values. So when we are talking about IP tables, when you are talking about firewalls, you should have in mind that firewalls work with IP tables, and these IP tables are basically like IP addresses with pre-configured or predetermined rules of what to do. So for instance, you can have a table that says that you should accept a certain IP address and drop certain IP address. So every traffic coming from some IP address is accepted, or traffic coming from certain IP addresses can be dropped or returned. So when you accept it, it means you allow the traffic to pass through. When you drop it, it means you block it from passing through. And when you return it, it means that you sent it back. It means it skips it, and then it goes to the rule, to the next rule in the chain. So you can drop, you accept, and you can return packet. These are determined at the IP table. You can also forward, or you can forward the traffic that is coming into it. So but when you're talking about firewalls, what I want to emphasize is that firewalls includes, they talk about, they may work with IP tables. So one of the things that firewall does is it checks the current IP table status. So when a firewall is being set up, it checks the IP tables that it is, and then it is sometimes the output of a command. When you set a command in a table or in a firewall, you can set the command to accept, to have an accept policy for all traffic or for a certain traffic. That is, you can set it default. And when the firewall is executed, or it will check this IP table and see what kind of command has been set. You check whether you have set it to default, where you have set it to accept, default to accept, or where you have set the tables to allow or to drop, or to forward. So the firewalls will check the IP tables to see what is the current status. Another thing the firewalls also set tables. So you can use the firewalls to also configure the IP tables and determine what to drop, what to delete, what rules to delete, what rules to drop. And also you can create a table, you can create a file sometimes with the firewalls, and that the firewalls will be making reference to every time. So one thing to note is that when you set your rules in a firewall, most of the time it stays in the random memory. That is, if you reset your device, the rules disappear. So one thing you do with firewalls most of the time, you can set a rule in a text file and save it, so that anytime you boot up your firewall can make reference to the file and upload and work with the rules that you have determined. So we are going to be looking at this in the next project, where we are looking at intrusion. We are going to be setting up a firewall. We are going to be downloading some firewalls, pre-configured firewall, and we are going to be looking at pfSense basically. So in our next project. So this video is basically to give us an explanation to a little bit of understanding of what firewalls is talking about in Windows and Linux. So when we are going into the next project and we're talking about firewalls, you will not find it difficult to flow along. So firewalls basically, it sets is a network device. It can be a hardware, it can be a software that monitors incoming and outgoing network traffic. Thank you for watching this video. So please, if you are new on this channel, please, I would like you to like, share and subscribe. So all like, subscribe and share, and make this video go viral and get it to the people, anyone that you know that might be interested or maybe having issues with understanding what firewalls is. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching.